Hi, I'm Dan Farnsworth with Audio Authority, here to talk about two things that make the SonaFlex system special: overrides and sound scenes. The SonaFlex SF-16M is a 16-channel amplifier with a built-in matrix switch and preamp. You can use overrides and sound scenes to make your installations easier to use, and that's what home automation is all about. What's the difference between an override and a sound scene? Well, an override lets you switch from one source to another and then back again, in one room or multiple rooms. A scene preset lets you take a virtual snapshot of the whole system, with all the sources that are selected in different areas. Then, with one command, you can instantly recreate that scene. So let's get started with overrides. An override can be triggered in one of four ways: by a serial command, Ethernet command, by the contact closer terminals on the rear panel, or, in the case of FlexPort overrides, you can also push the override button. This is the free PC utility for the SF-16M. Before I set up any overrides, I need to import my SF-16M configuration. Okay, so there are 10 overrides available, and then up to 4 FlexPort overrides, depending on the number of FlexPorts that are installed. To set up an override, click on one and choose the source. This one will be for the doorbell. I want it to be heard in pretty much the whole house, so I'm going to use the Apply to All checkbox and enable all of the outputs. I'm also going to set up a basic volume level for all the outputs at once. Now I want to make some exceptions, so I'll turn that off and disable some outputs. Disabling the outputs just means that this override won't affect those disabled outputs. The volume should be higher in the game room and very soft in the dining room. Now let's set up the FlexPort in the bedroom to play the iPod on the ceiling speakers in bedroom 1. We'll leave most of the outputs off, but enable bedroom 1 and set the default volume. Okay, what happens if one override is in effect, the iPod playing in the bedroom, and the doorbell override is triggered? You can set the iPod priority higher so that the doorbell does not override it, or you can set it lower so that the doorbell will interrupt the iPod. One more thing about FlexPort override. Normally you trigger it by pressing the override button, but you can also send a command from a control system via Ethernet or serial. Now let's go into sound scene presets. Again, there are 10 available, and you can trigger them in 3 different ways: by serial command, Ethernet command, or by the contact closer terminals. An override can affect several outputs at once, but they all have to switch to the same input. A sound scene can switch multiple outputs to different inputs. Plus, you can specify each output's mute and power status. The easiest way to set up a sound scene is to set the sources and output volumes the way you want them, and then send a snapshot command via serial or Ethernet. That's called remote saving. Make sure it's allowed by checking this box here. Once the scene is recorded, name it here and click Update. You can also tweak the settings for each sound scene over here. You can choose a source, power status, mute status, and a volume level for each output. On the Miscellaneous tab, you can set up the 2 contact closures to trigger either a sound scene or an override. The contacts can be either momentary or toggle. A doorbell or paging mic could be a momentary contact, and a FlexPort would be a good example of a toggle, although FlexPorts can be set up either way. Designate an override or sound scene for each contact. For sound scenes, you can choose one scene preset on contact and then a different scene on release. Once you're done with setup, export your settings to the SF-16M. Now that's it for overrides and sound scenes. If you want to know more about the SonaFlex, check out our website for more videos or give us a call.